Hi everyone, this is Darren from SimNation. Just catching everybody up on where we are with SNCFL. We are on week 14, which means we have one more week of the regular season, and then we will move into the championship week, and then of course bowls, and then the playoffs. Currently, not much has changed since the last video. Maryland still remains number one. Georgia, who is Shark, is number two. Skeletal with his Louisiana Monroe is number three. Matt with his Clemson Tigers is number four. Stewart holds down the 5 and 6 spots with UCLA and Michigan. Invisible comes in at number 7 with Auburn. Our first CPU team comes in at number 8. Skeletor's Oklahoma State is at number 9. Sharks Coastal Carolina is at number 10. My Colorado squad is at number 11. And then we have a couple CPU teams at 12 and 13 with Colorado State and Nebraska. Number 14 is Invisible's Sunbelt team in Louisiana Lafayette. Kevin comes in at number 15. And then we have a couple CPU teams before we get to the next human coach, which is the East Carolina, Florida Atlantic, Washington State, Illinois. Stewart comes in at number 20. My Appalachian State team comes in at number 21. And then we have a CPU team in Baylor, Bama with his California squad, and then UNLV and Wild and Kentucky, who are both CPU teams. Most of the playoff picture is probably largely set. Um, I know that both Duke and Appalachian State are trying to push to get into the playoffs, but a lot of things have to change. Kevin should be safe with Rutgers for the most part. I think Invisible will be safe as well. Nebraska, we'll talk about them in a minute, and Colorado State. So if we look at the standings right now, um, and like I said, a lot of stuff is pretty much set at this point, is currently the championship game for the ACC will be Matt versus Bama. So Clemson versus Virginia Tech. Of course, Clemson gets South Carolina this week. They should win that easily. Shark gets Georgia Tech. That one's probably going to be a blowout. Soa versus Florida State. He should win that one. Duke takes on Old Dominion. I don't expect any upset there. Stewart should win that. And then when you look at it, you can see that a lot of the offensive leaders, Matt is a run heavy team with Clemson, and it shows as he has two backs with over 1,200 yards. The top sacker in the ACC right now is Roger Lee, who's also out of Clemson. You can see Matt's done really good with the recruiting as he has multiple 5 stars coming into Clemson. Probably not much that different than real life. In the American Athletic, East Carolina will face off against Houston. This is a normal battle between these two teams. I like East Carolina this year. I think that they're better than Houston. A large part of that has to do with Gabriel Ladnor, who is their star wide receiver. But as you can see, DWK has done a good job with recruiting at Cincinnati. It's just an off year for him. He was actually, I think, also out on vacation for a while, so that probably didn't help with the record. The Big 12 right now, it is going to be Colorado State. Well, Colorado is in for sure. I said Colorado State, I meant Colorado. Colorado's in for sure. Likely it's going to be Oklahoma State, who, if they can win this week against Oklahoma, they should be the one that Colorado plays. Um, it's a little bit convoluted and messed up right now, but I know Skelter will actually be hoping that Ball State beats Iowa State just to make it clean, so that there's no Wilderness Hill. But it should be a good game regardless of who it is. I do like Skelter over Oklahoma. Rutgers should get past Texas this week. Starfinder's at BYU. He should beat San Jose State. Pretty good year for him. He's trying to move to 8-4. He's not going to make the playoffs, but that's a decent ball for him. Um, there are a couple good CPU teams. Iowa State, Baylor, Texas come to mind. So if you're interested, definitely let me know. The league's leading rusher is Edwin Durand. I don't think that that's going to change. And then you have Broadnax, who's one of the top quarterbacks in the league, and Scott Fish is, of course, one of the top wide receivers. And you can see Oklahoma State is largely dominating the Big 12 recruiting. In the Big Ten, Maryland is done for the season. They will be in the championship game against Nebraska. Michigan's only loss came to Maryland, and then Rutgers. As long as Kevin can win this week, I think he's going to largely be safe for the playoffs. But we'll have to see how that plays out. Shark has had a interesting first year with Ohio State. Honestly, he didn't have much to go with when he got Ohio State, so I would say that he's had a pretty decent year to bring him in at 5-7. Bama has had a couple big wins this season at Indiana, but he's still continuing to transform that, and Starfinder's trying to transform Penn State. So right now the playoff teams are really Maryland, Michigan, and Rutgers. What can help Rutgers is if Maryland knocks off Nebraska or blows them out, and that there's a potential for that. But on the flip side, not so good season from Iowa, uh, but largely Illinois needs a lot of help to get into the playoffs. As you can see, Logston, who was out hurt for the Rutgers game this week that Maryland won, um, he should be back for the playoffs. And you can see that Maryland and Michigan largely have dominated all the recruiting in the Big Ten, which that's not abnormal. Conference USA, it'll be UTSA, Texas San Antonio versus Florida Atlantic. A lot of people will be hoping that Texas San Antonio beats Florida Atlantic, and the main reason for that is it will just drop Florida Atlantic out of any conversation for the top 16. Duke should beat Old Dominion. Air Force is my zero to hero team. I've struggled with them all year, so there's no given here. Louisiana Tech will probably beat them. And then, of course, you have Skelter taking on Florida International. This one won't be pretty by any measure of the stick. But Tulsa versus Florida Atlantic. Florida Atlantic should win this one easily. And again, what you can see here is the quarterback's one of the main reasons why they're doing so well. Middle Tennessee State's wide receivers amongst the best. And North Texas is the one that's dominating recruiting. From an independent perspective, Notre Dame, who was a zero to hero team, is doing pretty well. Army is probably going to be my zero to hero team next year, just to see if I can't help them get it turned around. In the MAC, really bad season for Western Michigan. That's to be expected after Stewart left Western Michigan. Kent State, but it would be the same two players it always is. It'll be Western Michigan versus Kent State for the MAC title, and we'll see how that plays out. In the Mountain West, it's Colorado State, who's had a phenomenal year, versus UNLV, who's also had a really good year. A lot of people will be hoping that Colorado State doesn't stay undefeated or doesn't stay at 11-1 and loses the conference matchup. Air Force will be lucky if they come in at 6-6. This has just been a harder season just because there wasn't as much to work with there, and also I made some mistakes in the game planning that kind of contributed to them not being so good. You can see Colorado State has two really good wide receivers. UNLV, of course, has Maggard, who's one of the top quarterbacks in the league. So it'll be interesting to see how that plays out. In the Pac-12, this one is a little interesting to me. It'll be Washington State versus UCLA. Uh, if you're interested in joining the league, USC is still a good team. It's just they're kind of down and out. Washington is my other zero to hero team, the one I'm going to keep for a while and just try to see if I can't change them up. But they'll go to a bowl, but 6-6 is a little bit less than what I had hoped for. Bama had a good season. He, in theory, probably should have been in the championship game, but there's a difference between those two with the play in the division. So Washington State versus UCLA, Stewart should win that one relatively easy. Leroy Allen, of course, is leading the league, leading the Pac-12 in passing. And then you can see it's just all UCLA. Stewart's bringing in a monster class, though. This one is going to be interesting, mostly just because Auburn is done and they will make the playoffs. But it'll be Louisiana Monroe versus Georgia, so Skelter versus Shark. And it'll be interesting to see how that goes. All three of these teams are in the playoffs easily. There's no concern there. But like I mentioned, South Carolina will need a lot to beat Clemson. Georgia Tech will need a lot to beat Shark in Georgia. Florida State will need a lot to beat Florida. Stewart takes on Vanderbilt. That should be a good game. I think he's got Georgia State on a good trajectory. They just need a little bit of work. And then you have Louisiana Monroe, who's just going to curb stomp Florida International. You can see here that Willard is one of the best running backs in the league at Auburn, and he's had a great season. And that there's some distribution here within the recruiting, but it's largely Georgia and Auburn. The Fun Belt, which has become more fun since there are more human coaches in there, is Shark has one path to the championship game. Invisible Witness has won the other, so it'll be Coastal Carolina versus Louisiana Lafayette in the championship game. App State will silently be hoping that Louisiana Lafayette loses, because that paves a path for them to get there. Me personally, though, I'm not. I would actually rather see Louisiana Lafayette win it and then keep Coastal Carolina up high enough that they can make the playoffs so that there are two teams from the Fun Belt making it in. I just don't see a path for Appalachian State to get there this year at 9-3. Good season for Stewart in his first season. I know he'd want to do better, but he had probably one of the harder schedules out there in the Fun Belt. So 6-5 is a good start for him. And then DWK just had some struggles with Georgia Southern this year. I expect him to bounce back. You can see UOL has had a really good recruiting season. So has Shark. Top passer here, of course, is Nathaniel Weems, who's actually been out hurt. Trenton Wise Trenton is the top passer in the league from Coastal Carolina, and he's got a really good running back in Rodney Turner. So that's kind of where we are. The Heisman race is pretty wide open right now. I think that you'll see Maggard in it, but I think a lot of if Logston hadn't gotten hurt, I think that he would have been in the Heisman race. I don't think he's in it now. But Edwin Durand is definitely in it. What will probably keep Logston somewhat in it is those 25 touchdowns. But I think Ronald Willard should actually be in the Heisman conversation now because of Logston's injury. You look at receiving yards, we've got a couple really good wide receivers who are having really great seasons. None of them on human teams, though, unfortunately. And then what you'll see is from a sack perspective is, again, you have Buck Mills, who should be up there for the Bednarik Award. And for the Thorpe, it's probably going to be Jack Mixon, although Anthony King can get in there as well. So if you're interested, definitely let us know. We'd love to have you. We have a lot of really good teams open. Like I mentioned before, Iowa State is one, Colorado State, Nebraska, East Carolina, Florida Atlantic, Washington State, USC, even though they're having a bad year this year, is another really good team. Baylor, and then Kentucky. So we'd love to have you. It's a great league with a lot of good coaches, and hope you have a great night. The next uh, recap I should do will be roughly around the time that we have the conference championships. Have a great night.